I love to interview movers and shakers, and today's guest is someone who's been at the center of some of the most controversial conversations in public health and media. He is an Emmy Award-winning producer and investigative journalist. He has spent years challenging the mainstream narratives. He advocates for transparency, informed consent, and open debate in science and medicine. I'm joined by Del Bigtree. He's the creator and host of the HighWire and the must-see documentaries Vaxxed and An Inconvenient Study. I want to welcome you all to the Meehan Mission podcast, where we explore the intersection of faith, science, truth, and health. And who better than Del Bigtree to join in our conversation? So let's get started and let's welcome Del to the show. Well, everyone, today I have the man, the myth, the legend, Del Bigtree. Del, thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to have you.
It's great to be here, Cathy. I'm looking forward to this.
Good, good, good. I know that we've both been flying all around the States, you all the time, and I just really take this opportunity to thank you for all that you have done and all that you will continue to do to help educate the people, just being the brave person that you are and spreading that braveness to everyone else. So let's start with that, Del, because
Okay.
you are brave and you don't step down. So what is it that sparked that personality or that character trait that you have of never giving up, of always telling the truth? I mean, were you born that way or did your mama teach it to you?
That's probably the biggest question I grapple, really, honestly. Nature versus nurture. Um, I do wonder what I am, is just a natural being. Would I have had ethics or morals or things? I had parents, my mom especially, that were very, very committed to raising children and in a very specific way. My mom knew she was raising us different than anyone she'd ever met before,
Mm,
and it was sort of I think my mom and dad were on a really powerful, spiritual trip coming out of the '60s. They're hippies, not like the drug hippies, but more like the political activists. And apparently they were different things, which is interesting. I don't think a lot of people know that. But they were getting deep into some spiritual work, a lot of dream interpretation, Bible reading, and they raised us to believe we could change that not just we could change the world, that we were
mhm.
here to change the world. Um,
Oh, good.
and so, you know, I've said it. I gave a talk in San Diego at Tracy Slepcevic's event, Autism Health Summit, and up until Vaxxed, there's a lot of cool things that happened in my life, and I was in theater in New York. I was into performing. I got the Broadway touring company and Hair, the musical, sort of ironically to play a hippie, like the parents I'd grown up with. But I always had, and I won an Emmy Award at the doctors, but I always had this hole I couldn't quite fill. That I just had this profound sense that I hadn't found my calling, and was even doing, there was a men's group in California where a great Native American guy was doing sweat lodges, and we would all sweat together once a month and pray and chant. And, you know, I, my prayer was the same every time. Like, I want to find that thing I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm,
And I'm so completely sure it was Vaxxed. I mean, when through all the miracle of that I told, it was great. It was a lot of fun to tell that story. There's so many beautiful details. But the moment I sat and finally saw this documentary and sitting in Andy Wakefield's basement, I had just a unique thought, which is not only am I qualified to make the adjustments to this film that it needs, I actually thought, given how I was raised, the work I'd done on the doctors, how many people have made science into entertainment. There was probably about 15 total. The team working on Dr. Oz and the team working on the doctors, and I was on the doctors. So,
Mhm.
and then would have understood this topic. So yeah, I felt like of all the people in the world, I'm the single most qualified person for this one very specific task,
Mhm.
which was a life passing before your eyes moment, um, that I still grapple with, which is it seemed like every failure and every success, the ones I cried about, I didn't end up being Steven Spielberg, the filmmaker I thought I was going to be, um, and it just seemed like everything was designing me for this moment. I truly felt like God
Mm.
had been preparing me. And so the other biggest question is, people will say, how'd you get where you are? Or kids will come up, I'm getting the film or theater or whatever, how do you get success? And, I honestly wonder, was there any other door to a successful life that I somehow walked past or missed?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
were all those missed opportunities, like, they had to be missed because there was one thing I was here to do? I don't know. That's why I really contemplate that a lot.
Yeah, well, I feel you because I am whoever thought I'd be doing a podcast
Yeah.
or running a clinic or, taking over, the legacy that Jim had built. And but I look back and I see like all these little stepping stones, if you want to call it, the things
Yeah.
that God presented and the doors that were open, the doors that were closed. And I think I don't we won't ever really know what our
No.
final plan is until the very last day. We will
Yeah.
not know. But I know the plan that you are on is working.
It's working,
It's
and I'm
definitely
having
working.
fun. I mean, and
And
I'm
yes,
really enjoying myself. So,
yeah, yeah,
that's about the only test you have, right? I always say to people, "Are you happy?" Like, if they're talking about what they're
yes.
doing,
Mhm,
are you
mhm,
filled with joy? Because if
mhm.
not, I've
Yeah.
gotta believe we're all have the same birthright, right?
Yes.
Life,
Yes, we
liberty,
do.
the pursuit of happiness. So,
Absolutely.
you
And
know,
I encourage people, you find your purpose and you wake up every morning and you ask God to direct your feet, give you wisdom, give you discernment, and you walk in that direction. And then he might turn you to another direction or introduce you to another contact or something like that. But you're right. Have fun doing it, have joy, create the community, which, really vaxed. I just Vaxxed is what changed my life. It changed Jim's life. And, he was already kind of a critical thinker. So he knew that there was something wrong with the whole childhood vaccination schedule.
mm,
And so when Vaxxed came out, and I remember Dell in the theater, we were in Oklahoma City. And when the movie ended, it was just dead silence. Nobody said anything. And it was like, I, that sparked so many things for so many people. And that's really what, Jim was like, I'm not going to be silent anymore. And we need to get out and tell the message. And did you ever think, because now Vaxxed is 10-year
yeah.
anniversary. I can't believe that 10 years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Did you,
April 1st, this month, April 1st,
yeah,
our first screening in Angelica Film Center in New York.
did you have
Yeah.
any idea that you would create this momentous movement that's not even close to stopping?
Um, well, first of all, I was only a vessel. I still watch that film every once in a while. Someone will have it, pull it out, or I'll go to an event where they're showing it, and I'm in awe every time I watch it. I have the same thought I had when we really had finally locked the picture. I'd told the story how we'd run out of time. It was we were being there was no, we had an opening night date, and uh, there was just no more futzing with it. But I watched the last version of it, and I just thought, who made that film? Because that is better than any of the 3 people that I sat in the room with while we made it. That's better than any of us were capable of. Something really special has happened there. I think that, it's a bit like they talk about sculpting, right? The sculpture is always there. All you
Mm.
did was pull the stone out of the way that was in the way.
Mm.
I think
Yes.
that's what great art is. So it's really hard to take credit for it. Obviously we were the ones that, allowed that to come through. But I will say, yes, when I sat first of all, I mean, I told the story, there were like biblical sized miracles happening in my life that even put me in the room to be looking at that documentary upon a direct request and prayer to be involved in this whistleblower story I was seeing. I had no idea there was already a documentary, and then it just came to me. So I really felt like, God's hand was already really
Mm.
heavy on my shoulder. But when I watched it, I just thought this movie is going to change everything. This
Yeah.
is going to be big. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have an image of it. I didn't know it would be a movement. I just thought if I do what I can do with um, this is gonna be a big deal. And it was kind of
Yeah.
very general like that.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it's a big deal. And if anybody
yeah,
hasn't seen Vaxxed yet, start
yeah.
there.
Yeah, go to
Start
the
there.
highwire.com,
Yes.
go hit the little hamburger search and get in the search and just type in Vaxxed and watch it for
And
free.
it's start there.
It's still it's just an amazing movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So from Vaxxed, is that where the HighWire came in? Because I heard, did it start in a closet in California when you started the HighWire? Tell me a little bit about the very beginnings of the HighWire, because I also, so, I mean, you were such a superhero in this field, in this area, because I send people to Vaxxed, I send people to the HighWire, and then we'll touch on an inconvenient study in a little bit
Yeah.
too. But
Yeah.
those are, I mean, those are so powerful. What made you decide to do the HighWire? Because that was genius. That really was genius what you did.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanna, credit, somebody else, Tony Sweet. It was his idea. I'll explain. We had just I started ICANN was really, a product of having met Aaron Siri and realizing that there was going to be a legal way to get into courtrooms,
Mhm.
and that was the only way we were going to get the evidence and science that was being hidden from us.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do I pry it out of the government's hands since they're giving liability protection? This whole thing is such a
Mhm.
sham. I know it's a house of cards, but I cannot get to the foundation of it. So when I met
Yeah.
Aaron, that was a miracle. Another just as big, well, tectonic
Yeah,
plate
Aaron is
shifting miracle. So, that was just gonna be a nonprofit. We were gonna do legal work, and I was gonna continue just flying around and do more legislation and talking to legislators to try and get legislation changes to happen. And, the one of the primary sponsors that had sponsored Vaxxed loved the legal approach.
Mhm.
And so I would do podcasts and be on anyone's show or try to get on the news. And I happened to be on a pod. I don't remember which podcast. It'd be fun to go back. Probably be important for a book someday. But I was on some podcast, and there was this podcasting studio at the doctors. I'd been at Paramount Studios, but just up the street, um, I'm trying to remember, was it a Warner studio? But anyway, there was a studio lot there, but this guy had rented out this whole area and he had like 6 podcasting studios. And so this person was just, they had the cameras all pre-set up, but they were like little closets. They were just like these little closets, a couple little lights and maybe 1 or 2 cameras. And I did this interview with this woman and I got down and I was leaving and the owner of the podcasting studio, Tony Sweet, said, "Hey, you were fantastic. You should. Do you have a podcast?" I said, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you should do your own podcast." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." As a compliment. And I went to walk out the door, and he blocked the door. And he said, "No, I'm not kidding. I mean, like, I'm so serious about this. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna let you leave until you pick a time to try doing a podcast here. In fact," he's like, "I'll take on all the costs. I'm not gonna charge you.
What?
I want you to see what you can do here." And it was almost like a TV. He had like 5 rooms, and then the dates, and then the time, like all Greek, grid. And there's only a few open spots. He was doing pretty good, and
Yeah.
I saw Thursday at 11 a.m. It was in Pacific. I was like, all right, I'll try that Thursday slot right there. He's like, great, I'll see you next Thursday. And
Oh
that's how
my.
it happened. It was just totally accidental. I decided, well, I don't know what I'll talk about. So I just thought my wife has been in the shadows through all of this back stuff. Why don't I interview her? So I had her on, my COO, Kat Leighton, for the nonprofit we'd started for legal work, was trying to like just to get together a script. And I think she grabbed her husband, Patrick, and said, hey, we need someone to sort of handle the tech side. And the very first one I did, I suddenly was like, oh, I should have done this a long time ago.
Mhm.
And then the second week, then I was like, oh, I want to do a reel. That was great with my wife. That was awesome. People, and there was like, a couple hundred people watching. It was great.
Yeah.
And then the next week, I wanted to get more. I was like, if I'm going to do this, let's get controversial. So I brought on Tony Muhammad, the head of the
Oh.
California chapter of the Nation of Islam, who had
Mhm.
also stood with us on this vaccine issue several
Mhm.
times. He came on, and then we had 1,000 people watching, and so it kind of went like, but then we were just off and running, and I haven't missed a Thursday
No.
since. So that was
No. Yeah.
early 2017. But just like a lot of things was just sort of handed to me at exactly the right time.
Mhm.
We didn't know how we were going to get the public to understand the lawsuits that we were winning because the media wasn't going to cover it. And the
True.
HighWire just seemed like a
Mhm.
perfect tool. So it was just
Mhm.
one camera. The walls were just a little bit further than I could spread my arms out. And we, had a little banner that we made that went behind me that said the HighWire. And I remember we were trying to think of a name. And, I like, Wire, like the Wire is always a news thing, like Daily Wire had a thing and blah, blah, blah. And then I just thought the HighWire sounds cool. And I was driving, and I didn't know why, just like, I think the HighWire, and I'm driving in, and we wanted a slogan, and I said, high above the circus of mainstream news,
Mm.
death-defying talk, the HighWire,
Perfect.
you know?
Yes. Yes.
So, and
It's
it
a
just
little
came to me.
risky up there.
It's a little
Yeah.
risky up there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my, that's crazy because just again, I always point people. I'm like, we're Central Time, so it's every Thursday, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And if you can't make that, then it's
So,
recorded and
yeah.
go to the highwire.com. So I mean, and people, if you would have been watching the High Wire during COVID, you would have known all about ivermectin and you would have known everything
Yeah.
that we know. So it's because you guys, you dig, you find the truth, you present it, you ease the fear so that people don't need to fear things. And,
Yeah.
you stay on top of things and you educate. I mean, which is so important. So I don't want to get too sentimental here,
Yeah.
but my dear husband, Jim Meehan, uh, guest hosted your show. It
I think
was
he's
his,
it. I believe. Have we
he's the only
ever
one
it
besides,
besides Jeffrey,
uh,
besides who was not
besides
already on the
Jeffrey.
team, I think Jim's the only
Yeah.
guy that we ever had guest host the show. Truth
Oh, yeah,
is
he let everybody know. Yeah,
I
he
was
let everybody
grooming
know.
him, by the way. I was grooming him for his own show. I don't know if I ever told him that, but,
Well, he
there
knew
wasn't a better speaker out there. There isn't.
yeah.
I mean, you wanna talk about a warrior, just a true brother. A lot of this has felt like a war, and
It is a war.
there's very few people like, it's sort of
Mm.
like Braveheart that you're like just laying there, broken and beaten and sweating. And I just always felt, and I still do feel Jim with me
Yeah.
in
Oh,
that fight.
he's with me every single day. He's
Yeah.
in my photos and he's there every single day. And I just know, that was his bucket list to do that. And I thank you so much for, filling that bucket of his because
Yeah.
he was very proud of that. He loved you like a brother. And so we won't stay too much on that. But
Well,
let's let's
I
talk.
look, I think it's important to realize we don't know how long we're here. And it's a
Oh, yeah.
huge part of how I
Mhm.
approach my day. Like, I really don't have some
Mm.
expectation that I get along life. Sometimes I wonder if I just if it's going to be cut short simply because I'm so inspired to get so much done every day. Like, what is my,
Yeah.
what is that fire? It burns like a fire for me. Um, so only God decides that. Like everyone will say,
Mhm.
are you afraid for your life? No.
No. Mm-mm.
God's gonna decide what my last day is. I just want to make sure I did everything that day that I could.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
so
And
that's
I, love everybody that you encounter. Love everybody that you
yeah.
encounter because that's, that's the big thing is and that's how we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
That's, which
Well,
we've
look,
how many times
I took that to
yeah.
another level, even the talk I gave. Like I said, the people that, I went through all the people that if any one of them had said no, Vaxxed might have not been made. And two of them, one was Senator Richard Pan,
Love that
uh,
guy.
who, who brought SB 277. Without him, I don't know that I'm here. I think I might have just sort of stayed, with my cushy little Emmy Award-winning career and gone that direction, but he came after me, came after my kid. We
Mm,
weren't vaccinated. I wasn't something I
mhm.
talked about. We were just a quiet group of people living our lives, our way. But when he decided, I'm going to take that life away from you, he unearthed the monster. And frankly, I'll still say this to all the people out there that fight us. If you want us to go away, take away mandates, let everyone decide what they want to do, and
Yes.
then I will move on to other things.
Mhm.
You are
Yeah.
making me tell everyone why I don't vaccinate. You are making me
Mhm.
talk about the science because you're attacking my way of life. So, but I
Right.
celebrate Senator Pan. I
Yeah.
celebrated Jane Rosenthal for kicking Vax out of Tribeca because if she hadn't done that, we wouldn't have gotten, $1 billion in free press across the world, which
Oh,
literally
priceless.
went on for a
Mhm.
year. So it
Mhm.
was sold out audiences. That is what, we couldn't have afforded any advertising. So instead, Vaxxed was mentioned in headlines every other day in every major newspaper in the world. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jane. Couldn't have done
Yes.
it without, I'd
And
give her a
Senator
big bear
Pan.
hug if I got to
Yes. Well,
meet
it's
her.
just it's just crazy how this like it rolled into the Bax bus. I mean, another marketing tool that you would have never gone from theater to theater and interviewing parents and then realizing it's not just the MMR vaccine, it's all these other vaccines that are causing these problems.
Right.
So, which is, there's those that's that God's plan there working his way into our lives and we're just obedient to every
But that
day
was
and
really, I'll never forget. I was sitting in the airport with Polly, and she said, "Man, we're spending a lot of money flying to all of these screenings. I want a bus." So can you
mm,
imagine if we just like had a bus and we just drive around with the bus and it says Vaxxed on the side of it? That was her brainstorm, and she made it happen. Like she
yeah.
so manifested that to happen. Um,
Yeah, it was
that
great.
it
Did you
was
go through
amazing.
more than one bus? I mean,
There,
or did
we
you have a
should have.
couple?
That first
Yeah?
bus, no, really, there was really one Vax bus, and they bought a new bus to do the Vaxxed Unvaxxed
Mm.
tour like 2 years ago or so. But no, that Vax bus, we didn't know when we bought it, had been it had all sorts of problems. The half the side of it fell off when we were bringing it from New Orleans to Texas before we even
Oh,
wrapped it.
oh, no.
And it was a rust bucket, and at one point on the road, it was crazy. We started seeing more of the road and the crack, like the whole shell that was attached to chassis. All the welds were just slowly like coming off, so that the whole shell of the bus was about. Anyway, someone looked at it like, oh, this is a Katrina bus. Apparently, the bus
Oh,
had probably been underwater for some time. We did not know that.
yeah.
So it had issues, and by the grace of God, I would say Patrick Layton, the bus driver, and
Uh,
Anu,
anew,
it was our
yes.
media guy, also had a bit of a knack with spark plugs and things, and that it was a wing and a prayer every day we were in that bus, but it held up.
When your child gets sick,
the hardest part is often knowing what to do next. At Mindset Kids, we help you prepare ahead of time with trusted guidance, practical tools, and education that helps you care for your child at home with confidence. We provide you the tools in a handy home kit and natural health guide. Now, you can assess symptoms, understand your next steps, and know whether to treat at home or contact us for more advanced care with one of our pediatric providers. Join today at mindset-kids.com. Let's talk briefly about studies, because Vaxxed obviously was about the studies from the CDC and the whistleblower.
Hmm.
But your other project, an Inconvenient study, now that is another thing that I guide people and direct them to watch that, because that is pretty much the largest vaxxed versus unvaxxed study. Granted, it's retrospective, which means they look at records.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the update on that?
Well, I mean, the film has been a spectacular hit. You
Mhm.
know, it's got near, somewhere around 100 million views worldwide,
Wow.
which is astounding. I have
Mhm.
watched debates in the Australian Parliament on the other side of the world over the Henry Ford study. What was amazing about that moment is a senator there asks about the Henry Ford study, which, clearly he's kind of on our side. So I understand why
That's
he would
good.
know about it. But the
Mhm.
health department had an immediate answer that it hadn't been published and all these details. And I was like, that's Australia. The head of the health department knows about the Henry Ford study. And I reached out to that senator in Australia. I was like, did you pre-submit your questions? Like, no, that was live. I did not tell them what I was going to talk about. So that
Hmm.
shows you how far and wide I think the Henry Ford study
Yeah.
got because of that film and because of the Senator Johnson hearing. I think
Mhm.
more important than being the biggest study comparing vaccinated to unvaccinated is I think it's achieved something we may never, I hope that's not true, but we may never see again, which is sort of the opposing position, a pro-vaccine, self-proclaimed, I'm saying that because he says it himself in the hidden camera
Mhm.
footage, in a self-proclaimed pro-vaccine institution did a vax versus unvax study, which says to me the only reason they're doing it is obviously think they're going to be able to show that the vaccinated are healthier. And if there's a bias in science, and bias can affect science, which I think it does. It's one of my,
Mhm.
beefs with science. You would have to imagine they did everything possible to get the best result for the vaccinated they can, or could. And
Mhm.
when you then see that study, it ends up being one of the most horrifying and damning studies of the vaccine program that has ever been done. And so that is what makes that so incredibly unique. And
Mhm.
and I talked about it at that, I've been talking about it is, a lot of people told me stop challenging the mainstream science body to do a vax versus unvax study. They'll just cheat. They'll cheat that study. They'll,
Yeah, but they
manipulate it.
can't even cheat that. They can't
I think
even, the results are so conclusive. Well, I don't know if you want to use that word, but
I
they're so alarming that you can't even cheat it. You can't cheat your way out of it.
you know what
Yeah.
let you know after Vax sort of toured for some time, and I've since had the opportunity to meet with oh my god, Dr. William Thompson,
Oh,
CDC
CDC
whistleblower. Yeah.
blower. Uh-huh.
And he told me once that
Mhm.
they were at the CDC, they were re-evaluating, the studies that he had done that we said showed this connection to autism. They were trying to manipulate it in a way to show that it didn't show that. And and in the end, that study never came out because in Thompson's own words, he said that data is kryptonite.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think this has to be the problem, is that this would have been, I say it in the film, I say it everywhere I speak, the easiest study in the world really to do would be to just compare kids that are vaccinated to those that
Yeah.
aren't. And
Yes.
if you there is no study in the world that shows that the vaccinated are healthier, which is the entire purpose of that program, it's
Mhm.
not for lack of trying. They must have done that study a million times in databases around the world. I think the data is kryptonite. And man,
Mhm.
I just it's frustrating how long it's the media and the religion around this is going to block this because it is now so blatantly
Yeah.
clear
Yeah.
where that this
Yes.
program is poisoning children.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was having this conversation with some girls yesterday, and they have vaccine injured children that are in their 20s. They're in their 20s. So that's 20 years that they've been fighting for truth and justice and, solutions. And then I think of, and I just want to, remember, it was Mary Ann Puckett, her son, Stephen, I believe it's from Oklahoma City. He's probably in his 40s right now.
Mhm.
That means that 40 years have gone by on this vaccination program from the government, and we're still trying to get it worked out. We're
Yeah.
still trying to prove that vaccines are causing, and yes, okay, everybody, for the disclaimer, it's not just vaccines, but we know that the majority of them, especially regressive autism,
Like,
is
it's a primary
vaccines.
contributor. Let's
Vaccines.
just say it's a primary
Yes.
contributor
Yeah.
to autism. Just
Yeah, which even
yeah.
McCullough's report showed that it was vaccines were the primary,
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
if you fix that,
yeah.
that would bring the greatest reduction in autism over all other environmental
Mhm.
toxicities and issues.
Yeah, so I mean, we just need to work with that. But, so also, let's talk about some of the wins that we've had.
Mm,
Some wins that we won that we had to take back. Briefly, Bobby Kennedy, who
yeah,
knew he'd be HHS secretary? I mean, God did, right?
God did. I sure did not. I did know. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
very similar to when you asked me about Vaxxed,
yeah.
obviously, I had a very strong, I don't know, premonition hit, uh in 2020, I first asked Bobby to run for president. I had a meeting set up with him. I knew he was gonna be in DC, and Aaron Siri and I sat him down and said, "You should run for president. It would bring this into the limelight." And, he thought about it for a little while and then just,
Mhm.
didn't do it then. It would've been for the 2020 election, so just before that.
Mhm.
But, when he finally did decide to run, he called me and said, "Look, remember that idea you had?" And I'll tell you, on his bad days, when things are really bad, he makes sure
Yeah.
to blame it on me. He'll
Yeah.
he'll say, "This
You
is
gotta
your
blame
fault.
somebody.
This is your fault. This is your idea." But yeah, when and I and
Yeah.
I truly, when he put his hand on that Bible, swearing in as HHS secretary, one of the great honors of my life to be in the Oval Office watching that happen, and, it truly was just overwhelming, the thought that this is bigger than anything I had ever
Oh,
dreamed,
yeah.
and I kinda put it we, as far as I know, had ever dreamed was possible. But the whole time we were
Mm.
running for president, you know, w I don't know that we knew he'd be president, but I did know it wasn't for nothing, that this was gonna
Mhm.
end in some
Mhm.
big, important way. It just we had too many doors opening for us to think that, again, that God's hand wasn't in it, and
Mhm.
God doesn't usually fail. So I was curious the whole time. We just kept saying yes. Oh, all right, we're not Democrats, and we're going to go independent. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess we're joining Donald Trump. And so it was just taking it as it comes, which I keep doing. We could talk about the rally a little bit too, but there's a
Mhm.
very unique experience that happened on Monday that I think is another tectonic shift that
Yeah.
has me reworking what I thought were the next moves.
So are you
So
talking about the, people versus poison?
poison, yeah, the
Yes, the
glyphosate
glyphosate
rally.
issue. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an amazing rally we
Mhm.
had because I honestly wanna say, and if someone can correct this, there was almost pretty balanced Republicans and Democrats, if you will, conservatives and liberals,
Mhm.
standing
Great.
side by side at the microphone on that issue.
Hmm.
I don't know anything else that has achieved that in the last 10
Mm.
years at least, where
Yeah.
we were able to be united on a topic,
Hmm.
celebrate that we were sort of united. It was really a special moment, and I'm still grappling with how do we capitalize on that, and what does that mean? What can we
Yeah.
do with that shift, and how important is that shift? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm concerned about is if we go back to 1986 and the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, where whatever information Reagan was fed, he signed that, gave the pharmaceutical companies, exemption from liability. And that was a slippery slope because that's where we are now, where we're, 70 something, 80 something vaccines, however you want to
Yeah.
count them.
Yeah.
And then dear President Trump signs, I call it the Glyphosate Act,
Yeah.
to remove liability. And, that's a slippery slope. Now, I do think the advantage is the media that we've got, the podcast, the independent media, the willingness, like you said, people from both sides of the aisle are really finally waking up.
Hmm.
Where do you see this going? I mean, are we gonna be able to stop this before it's too late?
I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's in God's hands. And look, if it gets passed, then I will say it's God's will, and it's
Mhm.
there to wake us up, like SB
Yeah.
277 did.
Mhm.
We, I really had a. I mean, DC has really affected me, and I haven't fully come to terms with it. But I did 20 interviews, I think, with media. They don't understand what's going on. They're like, "Wait, does this mean Maha's not going to support Trump?" I said, "This means Maha is a movement of the people,
Mhm.
and the
Yes.
politics is only, an avenue through which, people that want health are using. But, I don't think it's aligned necessarily with a party."
Yes.
Um, but I just thought, the questions I get asked really, I equate it most to being like a surfer. I'm a surfer, and I get asked questions, "Are there gonna be 10-foot waves today?" Like, how the hell do I know? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I don't
all
know.
I know all I know is I have a long board in my car, and I have a short board, and I have a medium board, and if they're 2-foot waves, I'll be surfing those 2-foot waves better than anyone you've ever seen, and if it's 5 feet or 10 feet, we really get caught up, I think, at what I mean in this, we get caught up in the part of this we do not control.
Mm.
We don't control what
Yeah.
party is aligning with it. We don't. I mean, as much as it would be really
Mhm.
convenient if this stays in like one party or one, but life doesn't work that way, and so
Yeah.
you just keep going back to the car and grabbing a better tool for the moment. And so I think that's what I've done all along the way. That's what this is. It's really fascinating. um, so it's a beautiful moment. Yeah, it would be very. I wasn't there for the '86 act, and I do know I have a sense of what Ronald Reagan was told, and let's remember
Mhm.
Barbara Loe Fisher and a bunch of injured
Well, and
parents
what
were
she was
supporting it
told.
too, what she
Yeah, I
believed was
mean,
going on.
yeah.
But ultimately, we're watching the exact same play. You
Mhm.
had Ronald Reagan being told by the pharmaceutical industry, we're losing so much money from death and injury cases, we can't make a profit. So we are going to pull all of the vaccines. That'll be on your head. Now, remember, the part of it no one really talks about is it wasn't just about Reagan being worried about ending the childhood vaccine program, which is, even today and then, was still
Mhm.
considered the greatest advancement in modern health. And America was obviously a leader in that. But even more so, you have to remember we were really entering the biological weapons age. We were,
Yes. Yeah.
moving out of a nuclear weapon concern and moving into a biological weapon concern. And I think the real threat
Mhm.
was coming, and I think it was a Pentagon issue, which is if we allow them to boycott making back or stop making vaccines or take that manufacturing somewhere else, vaccines will be the only way we'd really be able to defend ourselves against a biological attack, and we would have no way to ramp up ironically, probably to warp speed a vaccine onto the
Yeah.
market in that moment. So that was a very, in honesty,
Well, that was a selling
honestly,
point.
it'd be hard to not succumb to that threat. And equally, I mean, I see what they've done to Trump. We will destroy every farm in America that uses glyphosate by withdrawing, their access to it if you don't
Right.
protect us. So
Mhm.
we continue in America to really struggle with a too big to fail issue, meaning
Mm.
they can blackmail presidents and get away with it. Oh,
Mhm.
sure, we lied about the real estate and we gave out crappy loans and lied to the world, and but you're not bailing the citizens out, or we'll take our bank somewhere else. You're going to bail us
Yes.
out, right? And so that happened. And so it's the same thing.
Mhm.
We've allowed corporate interests to get so entrenched and so monopolized, frankly, that there's not even a competitor to be found so that you could survive if Bear Monsanto
Right.
walks.
Right. Well, so where's the person saying just make a better product and phase things out? Just make a better product or make a safer product. I mean, oh, that's
I
a big
I
issue.
would I would guess you'd
Mhm.
have to imagine, since I, said it at the speech and I gave it in DC, we've known this product causes cancer publicly since the
Mhm.
WHO gave it the cancer rating of probably carcinogenic to human beings, the second highest cancer rating there is in 2015. So it's been 11
Yeah.
years they had to make a better product. I would imagine they're at the drawing boards. I would imagine they're not only all their eggs in one basket, they're probably working on some other totally toxic poison and figuring out how to fake the science on that so they could get that through a
Yeah.
regulatory agency. But I think, look, all of these things have problems. They
Yes.
they
Yes,
just
they do.
and so I guess they're like, now that you're looking, and now that you know how to look, and now that you know how to question us, and certainly while Robert Kennedy Jr. is in there, there's
Mhm.
nothing we're making is gonna, get through the gauntlet. So we might as well
Yeah.
go guns blazing to protect the one that we have.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I understand that tactic, and just hopefully with consumer awareness, that's where we're going to make the difference. It's
Yeah.
for that. But I wanted you talking about Bobby Kennedy, and because I was sitting on the plane chatting it up with a male nurse, ICU nurse, who was very much, if you want to call it, on our side. Vaccines are harmful, COVID was a scam, all this other stuff. He said, so I asked him, I said, well, what do you think about Bobby Kennedy? And he said, I don't know about Bobby Kennedy. So I tried to explain the analogy that you had said, I heard recently, about playing pool and the billiard
Yeah.
balls.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Will you please say that? Because
Sure.
that was phenomenal.
Well, I look at life. I've said this to my kids. People are like, why isn't he doing blah blah blah? Why not the vaccine? Why the food? Why the chemical dyes? Why the plastics and all these. I mean, look, by the way, let me just make this clear while we're on record, we still have time. Robert Kennedy Jr. has done more for the health of
Oh, yes.
Americans in 1 year than
Mhm.
every HHS secretary put together in my lifetime. I would stand by that. I have
Yeah.
watched, because I've been reporting on it. I reported on these
Mhm.
things at the doctors. Reported on heavy metal in the baby food. That's not a news story. There's been 5 HHS secretaries that came in and left knowing that that was a problem and did
And
nothing
not
about
doing
it.
anything.
So
Yes.
he's doing those things. But what I said, and it's sort of I have some simple philosophies in life. One of them is I look at it like a game of playing pool, like let's just call it 8
Mhm.
ball. I've played with people that get really cute when they have a ball right next to the pocket. They leave that one there, and they're going to go for their hard shot so that they got the easy one, and then they'll be set up for the 8 ball, right? So they skip the easy one, they go for the harder shot, and then they miss that harder shot, and then I come back and I win. And I've said to my kid, don't get that cute with your life. Shoot the balls that you can make. Shoot the easy
Mhm.
ones. Get all the easy ones out of the way, and you just might find after hitting one of those easy ones, the ball comes and puts itself in a really easy position on what was previously a hard shot.
Mhm.
And that is how I would describe what Bobby's doing. Bobby is moving the needle everywhere where it's easy. I think the
Mhm.
reduction down to the Denmark schedule, that's a massive lift that some people I was shocked didn't give him enough credit for. But look at, you saw, like, why doesn't he just wipe out the whole vaccine program? You saw what happened when he just reduced it. I mean, a lawsuit from the
Yes. Yeah.
American Academy of Pediatrics, activist
Mhm.
judge takes him out, takes out ASIP. So that's what he's up against. And he's
Mhm.
got internal conflicts. I think I think it's pretty obvious. It's not like Bobby's told me this, but clearly Trump has a soft spot for his warp speeded COVID vaccine, which is probably the most dangerous vaccine ever made. It's really like, I mean, the first thing I would have done is got rid of that mRNA technology. Bobby's a fraud. He's a sellout.
Yeah.
If that was the
Can't do
first
that.
thing, no, and let's be really clear. If that was the first thing you had done, that would be the only day you'd have that job, right? And so
True.
then
You'd be
what?
gone. You'd
You'd be
gone the
gone
next
before
day.
the
Yeah.
ink dried. It would be
Yeah.
erased, and that vaccine wouldn't even go anywhere. And so Bobby's smarter than that. Let's at
Yeah.
least give him credit for that. So he's going to get done what he can. There's
Mhm.
also, I have another analogy that I learned that's affected my whole life. I went for a gun training one time. When I decided, yeah, I'd be interested to take a gun classes in all places, LA, and there was a guy that could get
They
you
do
into
that?
this. Yeah, believe it or not,
Okay.
it's outside and there's like this SWAT house. And so you learn the whole day. I learned, it was the first gun I ever shot, learned how to, pull a Glock, shoot a Glock. And then you go over to the SWAT house and the guy says something that stuck with me. He's like, we're going to go into a live fire situation. Like, you're going to be using live rounds. I'm going to have your shirt, behind you, making sure you don't, hurt yourself. But he gave us the rules. He said, this is how everyone in SWAT enters a building. And he said, here's the scenario. Let's say, he says, first of all, if you're one person going into a house of multiple assailants, your odds of survival are just this side of zero, just this side of zero. So the number
Mhm.
one recommendation is call the police and get them here and get them to do it. But let's
Mhm.
say your daughter's been abducted, she's in this building, you have no time and you're willing to risk everything. He said, I'm going to tell you the only way, the people that survive, this is how they survive. And so it was really interesting. And people that, know guns probably better than me will, probably know this, but he said, first of all, as soon as you kick that door open, this has begun. You better be ready to move. Don't like open it and then think, because now you're framed and you're the easiest target there is in the world. But he said, what you're going to do is you're going to get through the door and go to the nearest wall, put your shoulder on that wall, and you're going to shoot anything that's directly down that wall. And you're going to slide all the way down that wall quickly. And he said, and now there may be someone, this is what's fascinating, maybe someone in the corner of the room that's shooting at you, but you can't worry about them. You are just going to clear this wall. You're going to turn on the next wall, slide down that wall, and that one in the
Uh-huh.
corner you're not going to get to until you're on the third wall. And he said, now what you want to do, your instinct is to turn and try and face whoever's shooting at you. But the
Yeah.
moment you do that, you've stopped, and now everyone in that room is going to take you out and you're dead. And he's like, you're probably being hit. You're being hit by bullets, and people do, but you will, if you're going to survive, you're
Keep
going to
going.
survive that until you've cleared every wall. Then you do every room that way. And it's the same exact principle, really, which is shoot the target in front of you. Don't get
Mm.
cute. Don't try to guess what's happening in another room. And don't worry about what's in the corner of the room making problems for you. Stay focused on finishing the task directly in front of you and then move
Mm.
on to the next one. So those are a couple of the
Yes.
Del Bigtree little,
Wisdom nuggets there.
wisdom nuggets. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That my favorite thing is hashtag be brave. That's
Yeah.
like, yes, that's which is true because that was the thing is when you have community that really like encourages you and gives you more confidence to speak up. And the more somebody, if you're a shy person, just start planting seeds for people of, hey, have you ever seen the HighWire? I get a
Hmm.
lot of information from the HighWire. You should check it out. That's all you have to do is
Yeah.
just plant seeds. And because those seeds are growing like weeds now. And it's just, the amount of people that are questioning the entire vaccine schedule. Thank you, COVID, for being that, blessing in disguise,
Yeah.
which brought so many people together. So I think, you know, we really can't depend on the government to wipe out the vaccine schedule. They're not going to wipe it out. It's just like you can't go to your pediatrician and tell the pediatrician why vaccines are bad. They're so biased. They're not going to listen to you.
For sure.
And it's really gonna, I think, come from the consumer level. It's people have to stop going to their pediatricians, or people have to stop
Yes.
buying glyphosate.
Yeah.
People have to start purchasing organic foods, stop buying fruity pebbles. And that's where we'll probably make the most impact. It's not as fast as just, having the government wipe it out. But I don't think that's going to happen from the government. It's,
The
yeah.
government is not never gonna be it should
Hmm.
not be the arbiter of health. It doesn't decide what health
Hmm.
is. We need to take it into our own hands. I'd love to see the mandates taken away. I'm not here to, I've been saying lately, I didn't name my nonprofit the Vaccines Eradication Network. It's the Informed Consent Action Network. I want choice. If you want vaccines, go right ahead. You wanna vaccinate your kids,
Yes.
I'll make sure the
Hmm.
science you can see it is for what it's worth, but that's your
Hmm.
choice. It's a free country. And frankly,
Hmm.
like, there's a part of me that knows there must be people that would be guided by God for some reason to protect their child in that way. Maybe they're vulnerable. I don't know. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna get in the way of other people's connection and what they're guided to do. But
Hmm.
I should be able to live my life as I'm guided to live my life and how I'm guided to raise my kids. And if I can't, then I don't live in a free country. I
Yeah.
then the founding fathers' dream is already dead. And that's
Yes.
what I'm fighting. I'm fighting for freedom. I'm not really
Hmm.
necessarily. I think the tip of the iceberg is health. It's why I use it.
Hmm.
But ultimately, I'm fighting for the Constitution of the United States of America
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's definitely.
Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights,
Mhm.
really. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like if you don't have your health, I mean, you don't have the energy to get up in the morning to fulfill your purpose, or to
Yeah.
even open up that door and see if that's the door you're supposed to go through, or to raise your kids or your grandchildren, and and teach them, which we need to do a better job with what information is fed to our children. And I just ask that all parents, that job is a gift from God. And you only have so many years with your children. And just to make that, number one, your purpose every day when you wake up is to
Yeah.
protect your children. Absolutely protect your children, because those little humans are going to grow up and be big humans.
They are.
And we want
Yeah.
them to be productive in the world. Absolutely. I know your kids have gotten so big too. It's like,
That
ah,
is an understatement. My son is
yeah.
6'5" and a half feet tall. I mean, I don't know. I
What?
always say I'm 6 feet. I might be exaggerating by a millimeter or two, but I'm right about 6 feet tall, and he just shot past me with a vengeance. I mean, kid is huge. It's so weird to hug your own son like you're hugging Paul Bunyan, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well,
It's great.
I'm sure they're going to be well versed in health, nutrition, fighting for your rights, and that you and
Yeah.
Lee have raised them well.
Thank you.
Most definitely. So do
Yeah.
you is there anything I've missed?
Well, I
Um
mean, we touched on it. I do want people to know you can go watch an inconvenient study at an inconvenientstudy.com. I think I spend my life trying to figure out how to make this very complicated problem and issue as understandable and reasonable as I possibly can.
Mhm.
And I would say that an inconvenient study is the pinnacle achievement of that goal. I don't think
Mhm.
there's a film that has ever been made that more clearly lays out the issue, has the right amount of, dramatic intrigue, especially with the hidden camera footage of Dr.
Yes.
Zervos is nearly 20 or 30 minutes of it. It is a fascinating, even if you didn't come away with the central theme, I don't think you've really seen undercover footage where you really see an internal struggle that this scientist is going through in a very real way.
Mhm.
I've watched people argue over whether he's evil or pathetic or dangerous or benevolent. It's really a very interesting human study,
Mhm.
and the movie came together beautifully, and it's free.
Yeah. It's
I'm
free.
even
Yes.
asking people
Yeah.
to buy we have little business cards you can buy at an inconvenientstudy.com. You can hand out with a QR code and the website so that anyone you see, everyone your question starts having a conversation like that pediatrician or the guy you met on the plane and say, hey, check
Mhm.
this out.
Yes.
It's a really well crafted tool for I think expanding this conversation.
Yeah. Well, and you point out, like, so is he an evil doctor? Is he selfish? Is he what? The thing that, we have open arms for people that realize if they have made a mistake. I mean, it's, I don't want to say it's okay you made a mistake, but it's okay to acknowledge that you've made the mistake. And then let's start correcting what we've done.
Mhm.
And just, I just want people to know.
Yeah.
It, you know,
Look,
there's
I
pediatricians now that are, turning, and they're like, I'm not doing vaccinations anymore. And you know,
yeah,
we've got nurses coming out of NICU because they realized what was happening. And that's okay.
yeah.
We love you.
Yeah,
Come
I
over to our side.
agree. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a couple times there's one other. Well, I'll just stick with an inconvenient study. I mean, when I screen it, one of the things I'll say is raise your hand if you think Dr. Zerbos is evil. It's usually about three-quarters of the audience will raise their
Hmm.
hand. And I say, okay, well, if you ask people to say, well, because he has the truth, it's clear these vaccines are poisoning kids and he can do something about it and he doesn't. And then I'll
Hmm.
say, raise your hand if you never avoided the conversation of the COVID vaccine, even though you knew it was dangerous. Did you ever go to a Thanksgiving dinner and say, I'm not going to bring it up here. I don't want to like have a conflict with my brother, sister, mom, dad, uncle, whatever, friend.
Hmm.
Did you ever not tell someone your truth just because you wanted to avoid the conflict? Raise your hand
Yeah.
if you've never done that. And I mean, no one raises their hand. And I
Hmm.
say, the truth. And by the way, I can't raise my hand. Even as outspoken as I am, there have been moments where I just chose to have a peaceful, meal with
Hmm.
someone and not tell them what I know. And
Hmm.
so that's the same thing. I mean, just because his was on a scale of he could have saved millions, I could have saved one person, and I didn't. So, our apathy or our fear to speak makes us complicit, and we have all been complicit, in one
Yes.
time or another. And I would just leave it at, as Jesus said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I try not to cast stones. We all have our issues, but we can do better and
Yes.
we should do better.
And we should do better. And we can start doing better by watching the HighWire,
Yeah,
Vaxxed, and an Inconvenient study so that you can go plant those seeds, everyone.
that's right.
And Dale, I appreciate you so very much. I'm sure I'll be seeing you around again. And just have a blessed day. And for our audience, I do hope you enjoyed this time with Dell. And just please share, like, subscribe, do all those fun things. And go be informed and be brave. Thanks, Dell.
Thank you.